Welcome to World News by Denis Halandzovskyi. If you value calm, clear, and thoughtful reporting on how political power is evolving worldwide, please subscribe, leave a comment, and share your perspective. Today, we examine an important theme in American politics: the idea that the influence of Donald Trump, both during and after his presidency, reflects a shift toward what critics call an imperial presidency. What does this mean? Why is it resonating in political analysis? And what implications could it hold for democratic institutions? The phrase imperial presidency was originally coined to describe a US presidency that wields power beyond traditional constitutional constraints, centralizing authority, bypassing established norms, and operating with fewer checks than historically expected. In recent years, commentators and political scholars have suggested that Donald Trump's conduct, both while in office and since, embodies some of these tendencies. This is not only about policy disagreements, but about how power is projected, defended, and extended in practice. Several patterns fuel this interpretation: assertive executive action, Trump's use of executive orders, declarations of national emergencies, and other unilateral tools shifted the emphasis away from legislative compromise toward direct executive power. Public messaging and polarization throughout his communication with the public, on official channels, social media, and in public rallies, Trump cultivated a direct, unfiltered relationship with his base, bypassing traditional institutional intermediaries. Continued influence after office, even after leaving the White House, Trump's enduring influence over a major political party, its nominations, its agenda, and mobilized voter segments demonstrates an extension of presidential power beyond formal tenure. Critics argue that such concentration of influence challenges long-standing norms designed to balance governing power. Supporters, however, view these same traits: assertiveness, direct public engagement, and refusal to defer to established elites as democratic expression, the people's voice breaking through ossified institutions. It's important to note that labeling a presidency as imperial is not a legal judgment, but rather a commentary on political dynamics, norms, and power structures. Debate continues even among scholars about how best to define and measure such trends, and whether they represent systemic change or episodic variation tied to a particular leader. Whether one agrees with the phrase imperial presidency or not, the broader conversation raises fundamental questions about how democratic systems evolve. First, the balance of power. The US Constitution intentionally divides authority among legislative, executive, and judicial branches. Persistent executive assertiveness, especially one that stretches beyond formal policy tools into cultural and political dominance, tests how those boundaries function in practice. Second, norms versus rules. Democracies rely not only on written constitutions, but also on unwritten norms, traditions of restraint, compromise, and institutional respect. Critics of Trump's approach argue that breaking with those norms creates precedents that future leaders, even with very different ideologies, might exploit. Third, media and public engagement. The modern media environment, including social platforms, 24/7 news cycles, and personalized messaging, amplifies presidential voices in ways unimaginable decades ago. This encourages direct connection between leaders and their supporters, but also increases fragmentation and challenges intermediary institutions like traditional press and legislative debate. Fourth, long-term political polarization. Polarization itself feeds into the perception of presidential centrality. When major legislative and social conflicts are interpreted through a binary lens, with or against a figure like Trump, the presidency becomes a focal point of identity politics rather than a servant of institutional process. Across the political spectrum, analysts worry that these trends, if left unchecked, could weaken confidence in democratic processes, erode trust in institutions, and deepen social divisions. Others argue that these shifts are symptoms of broader cultural and historical transformations, not merely the result of one leader's style or decisions. Internationally, how the US manages these dynamics matters, not only for Americans, but for global partners who look to US political stability as a foundation for alliances, economic cooperation, and international norms. Whether one views this as consolidation of power or democratic expression, the debate over the imperial presidency highlights that modern democracies are living systems, constantly tested by personalities, institutional challenges, and evolving public expectations. Thank you for watching this analysis on world news by Denis Halandzovskyi. If you found this exploration informative, please subscribe, leave a comment, and share your perspective. Independent reporting helps illuminate the deeper forces shaping politics today. Stay informed and see you in the next update.